What's going on, guys? Welcome to Total Football. Back again, man. Sponsored by the One Football app. Make sure you download the app in the link in the description for all your up-to-date football news. Yeah, and also before we get into that, 25% off Fresh Ego Kid early Black Friday access. I got you a code Rants 25. That's gonna be available until next week Friday. I don't know the date of that. I just know that I think next week Friday is Black Friday. I've got given early access 25% code for you guys. So if you want to buy some early Christmas presents, they don't have to know that and got the discount. Or just buy yourself some fresh drip. You've got until next Friday. I'm going to leave the link in the description for both of those things. So grab your One Football app for all your football news. And also, if you just fancy some new clothes for yourself, I think Black Friday will probably be payday for most people anyway. But yeah, you've got up until next Friday if you want to grab some shit. So that's just a way of the guys giving back, saying thanks for the support, and also thanks for the support for my channel and that as well. It's growing every week, numbers are growing, super grateful. So anytime I get something like that, obviously I'll put you guys on. Okay, let's get into your questions. At Mr. BHAFC, it says opinion on Dennis Bergkamp. Where would you rank him amongst the all-time greats? Love your content, bro. Bro, I don't know about all-time greats, but Premier League greats, I think that he's top 3 foreign imports of his era for damn sure. Like, obviously I'm a United fan, but I'm a big Dennis Bergkamp fan. Like, the way he played the game and the position he played in, he was one of the players that I used to watch, like, a lot. Eric Cantona was my favourite Manchester United player ever. And I think that Bergkamp and Cantona were just in that position, in that kind of... They didn't really have positions. Like, they were strikers, but they weren't strikers. Do you know what I mean? They kind of floated... They were like supporting strikers, should we say. They floated between the number 9 position, the number 10 position, the number 8 position. They were just everywhere, innit? Them kind of players in that era, I think Gianfranco was another one, Zola. Them three, man, were just on a level of their own. The time that they were doing what they were doing, they were just on a complete level of their own, man. But I think, in terms of the complete player, I think that Dennis Bergkamp just had a bit more finesse than both of them. But Gianfranco was small, but he had a bit of finesse. But Bergkamp was quite tall, bruv, 6 foot, and he had the finesse of a smaller player, bruv. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, Cantona had finesse, but he had that bit of brute about him. But I just think that Bergkamp had a bit more finesse about him, and Cantona had more of like a physicality about him. Do you know what I'm saying? So even when I done my all-time Premier League 11, it was very hard for me to separate Cantona and Bergkamp, and I only put Cantona in there probably because of my attachment to Manchester United and the effect that he had on me as a child in terms of how I wanted to play the game. But if I'm completely unbiased, I think that Bergkamp was a bit better. A little bit. Like, if I use the logic that I use for the players that I like now, like Bobby Firmino and that, who is probably the closest thing to like an Eric Cantona kind of Dennis Bergkamp kind of player now in the modern game, because them players don't exist no more. I love Bobby for the delicate stuff, the weight of pass and everything, and probably Dennis shades Cantona on that. Do you know what I mean? So my love for Eric will always be like, yeah, Eric Cantona. But if I kind of take that love away and I just look at the attributes of the player, I have to say that Dennis Bergkamp is probably one of the best foreign players I've ever seen play in England. So, I don't know, that was a hard question for me to answer, bro. Know what I mean? It was a hard question for me to answer, but I hope I answered it well enough. I think that Dennis Bergkamp's top 3 foreign imports, not just for his ability, but I think for what he did for England, bruv. Because I believe that there weren't many players of his ilk, yeah, before he came to England that actually played in England and did well. So I think that he opened doors for a lot of players probably looking, saying, you know what, man could kind of do a thing in England. Because before, England was known for being very physical, very direct and that. And he kind of brought a different kind of way of playing here. And he managed to kind of, it worked, like, do you know what I mean? So I don't know, it's hard to articulate certain things sometimes, but I hope you kind of get where I'm coming with that. Like, I like that question, though. At Totty89, bro, bad man name as well. The question always we have a strange and heated debate about is who is better, Del Piero or Totti. I have a Totti and a Del Piero Italian shirt from when I was a child. I actually own both shirts. It's very hard. When you say who's better at what? Because Del Piero was another striker that I looked up to when I was playing. He wasn't an out-and-out striker. Like, I even got the Adidas Predators because of Del Piero, bruv. Like, in '98. It's mad. Those are the only Adidas boots that I ever owned, bruv. Like, only Predators. I don't wear Predators. I always worn Nikes. I've always worn Vapors, whatever. But I got those Predator accelerators because Zidane wore them and Del Piero wore them, bruv. More so Del Piero. Like, I remember there was a volley in the Champions League that Del Piero scored. I think it might have been against Monaco, but don't quote me because I could be wrong. Back post kind of scissors volley and that. And bruv, Del Piero's tech was just on another level. Man could hit volleys. He could hold the ball. He could go past players. He was just, bruv, he was majestic, fam. He was majestic. But Francesco Totti, I almost feel like Totti got better with age, bruv, if that makes sense. A bit like Pirlo as well. When Pirlo was younger, I don't know if it was because what they did wasn't really appreciated and they were kind of ahead of their time as footballers. Because I feel like Pirlo only was really started to get appreciated maybe in, like, I'd say around 4 or 5 years ago. People started to appreciate that deep-lying playmaker role. Whereas before that, if you weren't really a kicker like a Gattuso or a Roy Keane or something like that, like even Claude Makelele to a certain point, he wasn't really appreciated as a DM while he was at Real Madrid. It was only when he left and Real Madrid started doing shit and the team was unbalanced, man started to realise, yo, Makelele was kind of pivotal in the balance of this team. So I feel like it's only recently holding midfielders have been getting the respect that they deserve. Obviously, Totti wasn't a DM, but as he got older, he kind of tailored his game a bit like how Scholes did. So I think that they're both greats in their own right. I think it would be doing both of them a disservice to kind of say who was better, because I believe that they're not in the same position. I think they were as talented as each other at what they were good at. So I think as Italians or whatever, or just people that are fan of the Italian game, I don't think that those are man you need to be comparing. You can compare Maldini and Nesta or something like that, but to compare Del Piero and Totti, I just think it's a waste of energy, bruv. It's a waste of energy arguing the two very great players. Let me know. I wouldn't even say who you think's better because I don't think any of them are better, but who do you prefer? Because I think it comes down to preference, that question. And this Stephen or S_Akiyama4646. It says Messi versus Maradona. Discuss. It's hard. It's very hard because we can judge them on ability, or you can judge them on impact. It's no surprise that Maradona's had a bigger impact on the Argentinian national side than Lionel Messi. But I think that on football itself, only time will tell. Obviously, I'm living in the Messi era. Eventually, Messi could have had a bigger impact on football just because the numbers he's put up are probably never going to be replicated again. You could argue that Messi probably played in a more talented Argentinian team and still hasn't won a World Cup. Yes, you could argue that. You could argue that Messi's played at a higher level for much longer than Maradona, which is valid. So, again, I think it just comes down to generations. A lot of people that are older that watch Maradona play will say, oh, Maradona's better than Messi and whatever. A lot of people in our generation will say Messi's better than Maradona. I'm not one of these people that believe just because somebody came first that you're not better than them. Like, literally, as we go on now, like, people are learning from other people and improving on that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, Michael Jackson is Michael Jackson because Michael Jackson was one of the first to ever be Michael Jackson. But there will be artists that come out that will be better than Michael Jackson. Yes. Do you know what I mean? They will be. Do you know what I mean? I believe that there are artists now that are out that are better than Michael Jackson. But nostalgia, when I say better, I mean more talented. Probably better dancers and better singers than Michael Jackson. But because of the impact that he's made on music as a whole, people tend to judge it on that instead of just judging it on music and talent, which is fair enough. It's the same with boxing and Muhammad Ali, etc., etc. So I believe Maradona's profile as a footballer is bigger than his ability as a footballer. I think ability-wise, Messi's better than Maradona. I really do. Like, I don't even think that that's up for debate, bruv. Like, when you see a Messi slapping free kicks like they're penalties, blood, Maradona weren't doing that. Do you know what I mean? But the World Cup thing will always be held above Messi's head. I don't believe it should be, because football's a team game, innit? And when Higuain is missing fucking one-on-ones and missing penalties and shit like that ain't got nothing to do with Lionel Messi, bro. So, Messi for me. Let me know what you think in the comment section, especially if you were around in the Maradona era. Let me know your opinions as well, because that might be a bit more telling. I wouldn't say that mine's biased because I'm around in the Messi time. I don't think that at all. But at the same time, I feel like you might be a bit more qualified, having seen a lot more of Maradona than me. Like, I can't say that I've seen Maradona play full 90-minute games anywhere near how many full 90s I've seen of Messi. So obviously my opinion is gonna be influenced by that. I don't know what my name is. Okay. Thoughts on Steven Gerrard and why you think he's better than Lampard? Me personally, I always thought the players around Gerrard held him back from winning a lot of silverware. What are your thoughts? Love your videos, by the way. You said it, bro. Spot on. Steven Gerrard. It's a controversial one. Like, I have loads of these controversial opinions sometimes, but because it's how I see football, innit? I think that Steven Gerrard was a very good footballer. I think that what he was good at what he was good at. I think that he was overrated in certain aspects of his game. Loads of people said, like for instance, when they talk about Pogba, they're like, he's never controlled a game. Steven Gerrard doesn't control games because he's not a Xavi, he's not a Scholes, he's not a passing kind of midfielder. Xabi Alonso was the guy that controlled the tempo of games for Liverpool, but Steven Gerrard was an impact player. He made decisive plays, he scored in decisive moments, like them 2 goals he scored against West Ham in the Cup. He scored decisive penalties. Like, a lot of the time when Steven Gerrard was needed, he stepped up and he delivered, bro. Like, and that's what it was. He was a very good athlete, powerful, got up and down the pitch very well, very mobile. He wasn't a great dribbler, he struck the ball very well. And then you look at Frank Lampard, who didn't have the physical attributes of a Steven Gerrard, was definitely more intelligent on the pitch. He played a more advanced role for most of his career. There was a time where Gerrard did play just off Fernando Torres in that role, a similar role to Lampard, maybe a bit further up than Lampard, and I can't remember exactly how many goals he scored, but he scored quite a few. So I think that Gerrard is better than Lampard because I think that all around, I think Gerrard could play more positions because he was a better athlete. I think that Lampard had a better football IQ. And again, I think they're 2 players that shouldn't really be compared, but they are compared because they're both English. Just like how people were trying to compare Park Ji-sung to Son Heung-min. And then people try and compare Scholes to these guys. And actually, all 3 of these midfielders are completely different profile. So, I do believe that Gerrard playing in certain teams definitely stopped him from winning silverware. If he went to Chelsea when he was supposed to go to Chelsea, he definitely would have won a lot more silverware. But being a Manchester United fan, I enjoy laughing at the fact that Steven Gerrard hardly won any silverware, so I'm glad he didn't move. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section, guys. Another very good question. And also, I just think that it's very important when discussing football, keep everything in context, innit? Like, sometimes who was better? Like, it's a stupid question to ask if these players are not even the same profile. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's really stupid. Like, you have to be specific. At Atomic J, help settle an argument. I say at least the top 10 players at each position should be considered world class due to the amount of leagues around the world. Excluding your view on elite versus world class, what are your thoughts on that argument? I think 10 is... Yeah. I think it just depends on what you deem as world class, and that's why I have the elite and world class. I believe that world class means that you're of a world level, and I believe elite is higher than that. Do you know what I'm saying? I believe that there can't be 10 elite players in one position, because if I'm doing elite, then I'm probably saying you have to be top 5 in your position to be elite, because elite's not for everyone, innit? World class, I say 10 is about right, to be honest, because for instance, there was a ESPN list of like top 10 forwards in Europe or something like that. It was a fucking joke anyway. I see João Felix, bruv, the tropical Leon Osman in there. No Raheem Sterling, no Sadio Mane, no Robert Lewandowski, but Aubameyang was in there. Do you see what I mean? I think that world class, you could probably have a list of 10 world class strikers. They're world class. Like, I'd say that Aubameyang is world class, but he's not elite, bruv. Do you see what I'm saying? So, I think, yes. I think, yeah, you could do it. You could do 10 and say world class. But, like, again, it just depends on what you call elite and what you call world class. Because Aubameyang's a world class finisher. So, because of that, you have to say he's a world class striker. I don't think he's a world class player, but I think he's a world class finisher. So, do you see what I mean? Like, we would say, I'll go with your top 10 in position in terms of world class. And then I just have to have a bracket above that as elite. And that way, I think that there's no stupid arguments, you know? Because when man are just like, oh, so-and-so is world class, and you're like, no, they're not. Like, their opinion of world class might be different from your opinion. So, in this aspect, we'll just say top 10 in your position, world class. Not top 10, not world class. And then if you're top 3 in your position or top 5 in your position, I'll say you're elite level. Let me know what you think about that, those parameters in the comment section, guys. Like, no one's ever going to have a uniform thing. There's no dictionary that says this is what world class is, this is what elite is. But, like, amongst us, we'll try and have an understanding. At Abid 021, bare numbers. You lot need to stop with all these numbers, fam. Salah or Sterling? I saw a vid where a bloke was saying Sterling's been more consistent than Salah over the past few years, but hasn't Salah been involved in more goals than Sterling? Again, it's a hard one. Two players that are very different profiles. Raheem Sterling's a winger that's being transformed into a forward player that's scoring goals. Mo Salah is a striker playing from out wide. Mo Salah's not a winger. Do you know what I mean? So, Salah will get you more goals. Sterling will get you more assists. So yeah, it just depends on your system, to be honest. If you want a wide player that's going to bag you 35 plus goals a season, then you'll probably say Mohamed Salah. But if you're looking for more of a team player, someone that is going to facilitate, make the players around him better, then you're probably going to choose a Raheem Sterling, because I think that he looks for other players more than Salah does. You see what I mean? So, I just don't know. In terms of ability, I think that Salah's probably got more ability, but he's more selfish, and yeah, it just comes down to what you like, man. Like, personally, if I was choosing a team, I'm not a massive fan of either of them. Like, I think that I rate them both, but I'm not a huge fan of either of them. Like, I think Mane's better than both of them. Do you see what I mean? So it's kind of like, meh. Or like even in the City team, I think that Bernardo Silva's better than Sterling. So they're not my cup of tea. But if I had to choose one to have in a team, I'd pick Raheem Sterling. I genuinely would, because I think he's more versatile. I think he makes the other players around him better. I think he contributes more than just scoring goals. If Mo Salah's not scoring goals, like I've seen games where he's absolutely nowhere and he's done nothing. Most of them games tend to be against Manchester United, I can't lie. But I've seen games where Salah's just nowhere. No goal, no assist, and just frustrating the shit out of man, just shanking shots and that. Like, do you know what I mean? And there's chances where he should pass, but he shoots. We should shoot, and then he misplaces a pass and that. Like, for how good Salah looks on paper, like, if you do watch him a lot of the time, you do see games where like he can frustrate you. So if I had to choose between the two, I would choose Raheem Sterling, only because of what he gives to the team as a whole. But I do think that Salah's probably more talented than Sterling. So again, sometimes football is just about opinions and preferences. Sometimes there's no right or wrong answer. And I think that that's my answer. Guys, let me know what your answer would be in the comment section. Another good question. Alright, this is him again, bruv. See, I just pick these questions. I don't even read who they're from. I don't know what my name is. It says, what are your thoughts on Gini Wijnaldum? I think he's underrated and can play in every midfield role. For Holland, he plays attacking. For Liverpool, he plays box to box, or sometimes as a 6. When United signed Memphis, I wanted us to sign Gini as well. That year when Memphis was pulling up trees, Gini was highly touted, and he's a very underrated player. And the reason why that is because Gini's very good at everything. Similar to like a James Milner that can play in loads of different positions. He's good in possession, can pass the ball. He won't score you loads of goals, but he can score goals. He can hold the ball well for somebody's size. He can dribble. He can do everything. He's technically very efficient and very disciplined and well drilled. And players like him slip under the radar because they don't really excel at anything. He's just very good at everything. Like, I'd say he's a 7 to an 8 out of 10 at everything. He's not a 9 or a 10 at anything. He's not below a 7 at anything. And players like that always get overlooked. Always get overlooked. Because people like to look at players that are exceptionally talented in certain situations. So I think that he's a victim of that. But I think Gini Wijnaldum is, yeah, I'd say he's very underrated. Let me know what you think about him, guys. I don't know if you've seen too much of him if you don't support Liverpool, but I do think that he needs to be respected a bit more than he is. Young Amari says, how would you define world class? Okay, we've already gone into that, but he's saying it's top 5 in your position or being able to play in any team in the world. That is why I left that question in now. I'm starting to think. And it says also, is Pogba the best and most complete midfielder in the world? Pogba, yeah, he is. He's definitely the most complete. You can't find another midfielder in the world that can score that many goals if he's playing higher up. Be highest for interceptions, tackles and all of that if he's playing further back. Like even in the World Cup, Kante was the only player with more defensive recoveries than him and stuff like that, and he's not even a defensive midfielder. So of course he's definitely the most complete. In my opinion, he is the best in the world. I think that players around him are slowing him down. And I'd just say top 5 in your position is probably elite, and also elite would be being able to play in any team in the world. There's certain players that can just play in any team in the world, any team, and those are my elite players. Your players like your Neymars, your players like your Mbappes, your players like your Ronaldos, your Messis, and that. You're like your Paul Pogbas. There's not very many that you could say stylistically they could adapt and play in any team because they're just that good. Like, literally, Pogba can play in any team in the world because he can play as a 6 if you need him to, even though he doesn't like it. He can play as an 8. He can play as a 10. Do you know what I mean? Like, Kylian Mbappe can play down the middle. He can play on the right. He can play on the left. Same with Neymar. Neymar can play in the 10, he can play in the 9. He can play wide in a 3 on either side. Yeah, these guys are just elite, man. And like, no matter where you play them, you know you're getting a certain level from them. Even as a in the double pivot from Pogba. Like, Pogba can give you a 9 out of 10 in that position, even though he doesn't like playing there. Like, there's not many attacking players that can give you a 9 out of 10 playing in a double pivot, bro, and get you 2 assists and a goal from that position. So these are the elite. There's not many elite players in the game, bro. Like, Hazard's world class, but I wouldn't say Hazard's elite, bro. Do you know what I mean? When you look at what he's doing at Real Madrid, it's not elite. It's shit, fam. Do you see what I mean? He's a world class player, but he's not at that Neymar level. He's not. So I hope that kind of answers your question, bro. I remember that is why I left it in there, because I just wanted to point out the difference between the world class and elite, and that kind of helped. At SparkyBoy72, what has Martial got to do to prove these doubters he's our number 9? I believe the team needs to be built around him. He's the catalyst and shown since he came back and behind Pogba. See, normally, man, when I leave in them United questions, that is more for the Rants Red talk. But as I mentioned before, I just think people know Martial for the pace, the dribbling, the finesse. So now he's showing a different side to his game. Because he's not doing that no more, man are like, yeah, well, like, is he still that guy? But you need to look at what he's given us. I've already touched on this in the Rants Red Talk, so I'm not going to go into any depth. And make sure you go and check that out, where I'll go into more detail about how Martial's game has changed and what he's actually bringing to the team right now. But in a nutshell, like, Martial's quality, bro. Like, and when you look at all these other teams, even in the top 6 in in the Premier League, all of these teams would take Tony. All of them. Man City would take Martial if he was available. Yes, they would. They would take him, and then they would think about, yo, how we can integrate him. Liverpool would take Anthony Martial and think, yo, where can we integrate this guy because he's quality. Arsenal would take him. Tottenham would take him. Do you know what I mean? Leicester would take him. Like, all the teams in and around where we are, where we should be, would take him. Whether he would start there because of the experience of the stars are there is a different argument. But all of these teams would have a place for him in the squad because he's that good. So to think that there were actually Manchester United fans that wanted Martial out, bro, you have to wonder what these men are on, bro. I don't know what these men are having on their chips, but it's not gravy, fam. Alright. Last but not least, at MattCFC_, why did Scholes, with the ability he had, get less assists than Peter Crouch? It's a good question, and this is exactly why I believe that this generation of football fan, yeah, without sounding like an old bastard, because I'm not, but statistics are almost, you can do whatever the fuck you want with stats, innit? You can completely take context out of stats and make a player look good or bad, etc, etc, etc. When you look at someone like a Zinedine Zidane, he didn't get loads of goals or assists in his career either. Neither did Andres Iniesta. Neither did Xavi, really. But you knew these men were ballers by watching them. Scholes didn't get loads of assists because he played too deep for most of his career, and he played the pass before the pass. Or he played the pass that unlocked the defence, that allowed the next player to play the killer pass. Or he kept the tempo, and he was the driving force behind every attack. He was the engine. Do you know what I mean? Not the engine in a physical sense, but an engine in the technical sense. So because of that, it doesn't show up on paper. Not everyone looks amazing on paper. There's a lot of players that look great on paper, like Lukaku. Then you watch them in real life and you realise these men have got so many deficiencies and they're not really that good. And that's just what it is. I feel like if stats were the be all and end all of deciding if a player was good or not, like, the job of a scout would just be obsolete. We would literally just go to Opta and I'd say, give me the top 10 midfielders in the world for distance covered, pass completion. I'll just sign them without watching them. I'll just do that, because why not? Like, why waste all this money flying around, travelling and doing all of that, when man can just go on Football Manager? Or I can just go online and find out who's doing what. And then teams would be signing Joe Allen. Like, you know what I mean? Barca would be signing Joe Allen. or Real Madrid, or like man like Henderson and them man will be playing for Real Madrid, bro. When man's past completions in the early 90s every game, and they're covering bare ground and that. Like, there's got to be more to understanding football than just reading off a piece of paper. So, what Scholes gave the team, it was intangible. There's a lot of intangibles that players like Roy Keane gave the team as well. Like, Roy Keane wasn't unlocking defences. Like, he probably didn't cover more ground than other players in the team. But his reading of the game, his influence and everything like that meant that he was invaluable to the team. So when man like Zidane, Xavi, Totti, all these men are saying, yo, Paul Scholes is either the best player I never played with, the best player I played against, or the best English player of his generation, it's because them man understand the intangibles of football, and it's not because Scholes was getting player of the month every month in the Premier League and Manchester United player of the year and all that. He wasn't getting all those things, but everybody knew that Scholes was the daddy blood. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's just the best way to kind of explain that. Because in that era, there were a lot of top players in that bracket that don't look amazing on paper. They don't. And that doesn't take away from their legacy, what they've done, what they've won, and how they're seen in the game. And Paul Scholes was one of them generational talents. Let me know what you think in the comment section, guys. That was your total football. Just discussing everything football, man. I love it. Not everyday Manchester United. Obviously sponsored by the One Football app, which you can download in the description below. Also, your 25% off early Black Friday access for Fresh Eagle Kid. £65 spent. Full price items only. And that's going to last until Black Friday, next Friday, the 20-something of November. I don't even know what the date is, bruv. It's all cold and raining and dark. Everything just kind of looks the same to me right now. So make sure you head down into your description, get yourself your discount, get yourself your One Football app. Enjoy that. I'll be back with your Sheffield United match review. Hopefully it's a fucking win. Thanks for all your questions. And yeah, I'll catch you after the game.